Let's go to wide receiver because what Mike Norvell's done in the transfer portal there is obvious. And Keon Coleman, uh, went from Michigan State where he was already an impact player with 58 catches for the Spartans, and then he comes in and basically becomes a star, and at times looked like as good as anybody in the game. But Florida State misses its three top pass catchers from last year, including Jaheim Bell, more the tight end position. But man, uh, I got to think that you like this room, although it's very inexperienced, because, man, I'm seeing names that just jump off in terms of guys that were recruited highly, just have explosiveness. Hakeem Williams, Malik Benson. We'll just start with those two, but take us through the wide receiver room.
I think Malik Benson showed us in the spring that he's wide receiver one. And I think that kind of surprised some people just because of, like you were saying, some of these guys that are veterans that are coming back that have been in this offense with Mike Norvell are not going to be expected to be that wide receiver one. Malik Benson came in and said, hey, I was a former number one JUCO, went to Alabama, didn't have the season that I thought I would. Alabama fans were disappointed in it. There were some inconsistencies too on his part as well. So he had to come in and prove it, but he did more than prove it. He proved that, he can be with the starting unit. He could even be wide receiver one. And, he's been the most consistent guy so far since spring going into fall camp. And, this room now makes me think it could be filled with a lot of, more newcomer talent. Like this wide receiver room outside of Ja'Kai Douglas, who I think is a starter here in this room. There's some guys that could come in and take some spots, like a Hakeem Williams, former 5-star there, Jalen Brown, the former LSU wide receiver. There's also some even younger guys like a Camden Fryer, who's just an absolute freak. They got LaWayne McCoy, too, who has earned a lot of respect from his teammates, and defensive backs have talked highly about him as well. But, you're hoping that Darren Williamson can stay healthy. That's his biggest thing, is having consistency there. And Kentron Poitier also, building consistency on the field for him, because he's made some big-time plays for Florida State. But, this wide receiver room is surprisingly kind of a question mark after last season, with what you were just saying, Mark, with Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson being off into the league doing their thing. But it's not a question mark in talent. It's just who wants to step up and take advantage and jump into that starting unit for Florida State. And I still think Ja'Kai is a starter there in the slot. Malik Benson has a spot solidified as well right now, unless anything crazy happens. Who wants to step up? Is it Hakeem Williams? And I want to lean Hakeem Williams at this point. But, you're also looking at a guy like Kentron Poitier, who is probably his biggest competition to get that starting spot. And that's a battle that we're going to watch this fall camp.
Then, Logan, we get the tight end position. Landon Thomas is there. You also have Kyle Morlock, obviously, another transfer who caught 19 balls, so he contributed last year. Just your thoughts about the tight end spot.
It's a whole 180 from what we were just talking about there, with a whole lot of crazy talent in there. And, it just depends on who wants to step up. I don't think there's as much talent, if we're going to be completely honest. Kyle Morlock, though, has had a really strong start to fall camp, which is something I'm keeping a very, very close eye on, because Florida State needs to have a threat in the tight end room. If not, then defensive coordinators are just going to prep for the wide receivers and running backs. Florida State was able to put out Jaheim Bell, who middle of the season wasn't fully healthy, and you could tell that. You also had Marqueston Douglas. That was also in there. And you had Kyle Morlock. Right now, it's just Kyle Morlock by himself. And I was not liking what I was seeing and hearing from the spring from him. This fall camp, though, has had a really nice start, has been making some big-time plays. This is exactly what Florida State needs. But you still want to build some depth there, and that's where Florida State is really, really hurting. Landon Thomas is someone that has come in as a 5-star, former Georgia commit. Just not the right time. He's just still too early for him to jump in. Yeah, he might get some playing time this upcoming season, and he's more of a pass catching threat, as he should be. He's not going to be look at being able to block. That's not what they're going to expect from him. You're probably going to look at Jackson West here to take on that role, or a Jarrell Powers, kind of more of a versatile. He can catch more than Jackson West, but Jackson West has put on some significant size, and he's just not a pass catching threat, in my opinion. But yeah, you look for him to be a blocker for sure, kind of like what you lost in Marqueston Douglas. I was a big Biscuit fan But I think that's going to be a rough loss for FSU and the squad. And you got another guy like Brian Courtney, who, just we haven't seen much from him as well. So I think Kyle Morlock, the biggest thing for us right now is can he develop and get better? And he went through and came into a better and bigger league going in the ACC, the Power Five, and maybe he had to make a little bit of adjustment. And also, too, Jaheim Bell was expected to be such a bigger role in this offense, but he just didn't get going after his injury as much as they thought they would. And you also had Keon Coleman, Johnny Wills, had all that talent around. I'm fine with Kyle Morlock being that dude. I don't need two tight ends, but he's also got a block though. And, I like what I'm hearing with the pass catching, but can he also block in that regard? And you look at like what, Georgia has been able to do in the tight end room with Bowers. He's not going to be a Bowers, of course. Let's don't get crazy. Let's don't get Looney Toonies. But can you rely on a TE1 throughout that whole season? And then, if you need some help, you bring in Jackson West for some blocking here and there. But you would like for Kyle Morlock to be a true pass catching threat that opens up your offense so much more. But good start to fall camp. But it is not a fun room right now. And Florida State's got to do a good job of developing Landon Thomas to be ready to go in 2025.